All right, and we are live. Good evening, everybody. The shadow of the Lisa Marie behind here. Good evening, everybody. From an undisclosed location north of the border.
I hope they can't tell by the window what's back there.
Yeah,
See that window right there?
yeah. All you see is the Lisa Marie back there.
Let me
That's
see.
it.
I hope there's not a
Yep.
sign or building back there.
Yep.
Mm.
Anyway, let me put this on. Put this on live chat. Welcome all of you waiting and stuff. Sorry about that. Took a little bit to get a little bit of refreshment north of the border.
Well, we just have 3 words for you now. We survived Tijuana.
We
Or we survived the
Tijuana.
border, whatever you want to call it.
If you ever saw, if you ever saw the movie From Dusk to Dawn, baby, that was Tijuana. And I saw plenty of Selma Hayeks down there tonight. Nice to see you. Space Ace, Vicky, Survivor, JJ. Nice to see you. We're going to just recap.
We
Not too long.
We survived to tell about Tijuana, and we're back home.
The Mexican cartel got a hold of Marshall after his religious experience at the Cathedral of
The
Tijuana.
police actually got a hold of you. They made contact with you,
Yes,
right?
they made contact.
You want
with
to tell
me.
them about what?
Well, we'll get to that.
Okay.
There's
There's a
not
lot
the
to
only
say.
ones.
Yeah.
You know, one person wanted to make contact with me, and one person did. The Policia Metro Police of Tijuana. So it was quite an epic night tonight. We got down there at the border about 2 o'clock, and let's face it, it's a hassle. It is a hassle down there. You got a ton of people. You guys saw the live stream. You got the busiest border crossing in the world. There's something like 25 lanes.
We should give a chronology of what happened from the beginning to the end, because there's a lot of stuff
Okay.
from the beginning to the
why
end. I don't know where you
you,
want to start, but
Well, the drive down, approaching the border. I know you're putting some video together about how you park there, how much it costs, okay,
Right.
and that type of thing. Is it a pain? And
well, first of all, let's talk about the drive there. Driving there, you pass through a town called Chula Vista, and then San Ysidro.
National City.
Well, I think National City's up north, I believe. But you see, passing on, I believe, going 5 south, you'll see a lot of gang signs on these walls around the highway. You'll see these roach motels, and you can just feel that you're in a dangerous part of California, like the ghetto barrios of San Ysidro and Chula Vista. You see all the gang riding, and like I said, you see the older apartment buildings, like the Section 8, and you see the gang signs, and
I told you as you get closer to the border, it gets funkier.
And you just feel that you're in an element of danger. Now you get to the border area.
Hello, everybody.
And we figured out that there are several parking lots. If you park at the parking lot that's close to the border, it's $20, $20 to $30. It's literally double the price of the other parking lot that's over the bridge. That's about maybe 1/4 of a mile, probably close to around half a mile from the border crossing.
It's a hike.
It's a hike, but you're paying $9. You're paying $9 on the weekdays and $18 on the weekends, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, instead of paying literally almost double. So we get to the parking lot, and we get in, and it's packed. And when you have a Class B camper van that's with the rack in the back that's almost 23 feet long, finding a spot without sticking out is impossible. So we're able to find a spot where I could back the rig in, and that relieved about 4 to 5 feet, maybe 4 to 6 feet that was overhanging.
We were lucky. There was a spot that
you could
was at the edge.
back in and overhang. Exactly. So we
and
get
it was
in there.
a tight spot, and I gotta reiterate again. I
Yeah.
know I'll get a lot of hate for it, but he's an excellent driver when it comes to whipping that rig
Right.
around in very tight confines.
And-
Because let's face it, if you can charge $20 to park at the border,
Right.
you're gonna pack them in like sardines down there.
And I'll let Rosie now. Now I've said about the parking, so we parked, and I'll let Rosie take over on the second, because I want to do this as a chronology.
Yeah.
So we park, and now there's a long walk to the border, at least 1/4, almost a half a mile, to walk to the border, and then checking in with the Mexican customs. I'll let Rosie explain what that entailed.
Well, as with most very big border crossings,
Right.
they're not designed to be just straight buildings on a wall. Okay.
Right.
It's designed to be a series of very confusing zigzags and
Right.
turns, so that if somebody wanted to try to do something, they'd get confused.
A heck of a time.
It's
to get out.
designed to
Yeah.
be confusing to people.
Right.
Now, what's changed since the last time when I took 10 years ago? 10 years ago, when you walk through the turnstiles to Mexico, and you'll see the actual metal gate that says Mexico on it. Once you pass through that turnstile, you're effectively in Mexico. And in the old days, there would just be a guy leaning back against the wall with his cap down and taking a snooze, and you'd grab a little map of Tijuana or something. You just walk right through.
Right.
Now they make you fill out a form
Right.
on the Mexican side.
Mhm.
Last name, first name, date of birth, passport control number.
Right.
Need to sign it. You have to show your passport to get in. So they have really tightened entry control on this border. Say
Right.
compared to San Luis, they could, you just walk in.
You just
and
walk
that's
in,
it.
or Algodones,
Los
you just walk in.
Algodones, Los Algodones. There we go. Thank you, Fourscores. So that really surprised me, because there was about 30 people in line that had to be processed, and it's a pretty long form. It's
Now, one thing
part
to
of it.
chime in on this, that people have told us that this is a waiver that people sign. I don't know exactly what we were signing or what the purpose of that piece of paper was. Maybe it's just inventory control for them to know who's going in and out. But there was no, I believe it wasn't a waiver where we're signing away saying that there's danger or we could be killed or abducted. I don't believe it was that. I think it was just inventory control for them to know who's going in.
Yeah.
They want to know who's going in, because this is a very, very, it's, like I said, the largest border crossing in the world. So they want to know in Tijuana who's going in. Bottom line. So I'll let Rosie kind of finish that off. You want to say anything else about the checking in?
When we went in the American side, when we went through the American side, did they have that pre-check to make sure that you had your papers?
When we went through the American side, they just, the first
wasn't there
layer.
a gate we walked through, and
The first layer of security just waved us in, and then we went through the main layer of security.
But I mean, I'm thinking, could you have gotten in with a driver's license at that point, or would they have turned you away?
I've been told by several people, and you saw Rosa was with us in San Luis. I've been told by several people that you can cross San Luis. Well, I know you can cross San Luis or Los Algodones with just a driver's license.
Right.
Now, I don't know with Tijuana. That's a major crossing. I don't know. I would assume if you can cross in Los Algodones or in San Luis, that you'd be able to cross with a driver's license in Tijuana also. But they might give you a harder time.
It's just hard to say. But if you somehow get into Mexico now with a driver's license, rest assured, when you come out, if you don't have any driver's license, I mean, if you don't have a passport, they can still look you up in a national search for your,
But you will be delayed
license.
entry.
You will be very delayed. Okay, you'll be put in a line with, what's called idiots are us, that you have to wait in line and provide some other proof and stuff. So
So the minimum is a driver's license.
If you are an American, they got to let you back. They cannot.
But the minimum of what you should have is a state ID or driver's license. If you cross without that, then you're going to get delayed who knows how long. So
now, I made a couple strategic decisions before I went in. Number one, I didn't take a purse. I didn't take a wallet in. I took my limited passport, and I
I don't see the check going, Rosie.
took cash.
It's kind of
It's gone. It's
oh, it
gone.
is? It's just,
yeah.
it's okay.
Yeah, I took cash and just the passport, and that was it, and my lanyard with the keys. I think it was a smart decision. I wrapped my jacket around my waist and tied it so you couldn't really have access to my pockets or anything. Because you don't really know. It's been 10 years since I've been into Tijuana.
Right.
Okay. Now, you step up. You fill out They give you a pen. You fill out your form, and I'll tell you, some people struggle. You know, you got Chinese. You know, people.
Well, it's hard to see the print too. It's very. Oh my gosh! You got to have a magnifying glass to see. I couldn't even.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And you know, then you turn that in, and they tear off a stub that you keep.
And you could tell the guy that was checking us in was very irritated. He was
they were very irritated at the border there. So. And
there was a second line there where I guess people who work in Mexico or Mexicans where they were going in faster without that paperwork, and they were just checking in with their IDs. I guess a separate line for Mexican citizens.
If you were a Mexican citizen, you just went through and you just showed
your ID
your ID card.
Exactly.
And you were in.
You were in, exactly.
And once we passed that, then things got really complicated because again, there's no such thing as there's Avenida de Revolucion, which is Tijuana's main street.
Right.
But all the other streets and the way you get to that main street is a very what would you say? It's a maze.
It's a maze. Yep.
And I think it's designed to get you across the maximum number of merchants that you can, on walkways and crossovers. Now, 11 years ago, when you take a bridge, you walk a pedestrian bridge over the Tijuana River. Now, I have to say 11 years ago, that thing smelled. There was garbage everywhere. There were people living on the edge of it. Now, it looks like it's been all cleaned up. That really surprised me, going over there. But when you finally get in there and you saw, that's where I went live from the border walking over. And you could see walking around through some of the markets that we went through that it was complicated to there's no straight shot.
Oh, there's no straight.
No, it's taking you through malls. It's taking you through.
I wanted to chime in with that. You walk in and then you see.
We made it out alive.
You walk into the border and you look to your right and you see the huge border crossing with hundreds of vehicles just waiting in line for miles on end to get in. And so it's like an amazing sight. And then you see this very old bridge thing, and then you walk in and you keep on walking in, and then you walk into there's another turnstile that you go through, and then it really, I think you're into the Mexican street life. Immediately you see a taco stand, you see the people selling stuff on the street, and you feel like, okay, now I'm in Mexico. And then basically, then now you have to figure out, well, how do you navigate now? So we walk, and me and Rosie are walking on a sidewalk, and Rosie tells me, go over the bridge. So I'm like, okay. Then I look to my right, and I see there's another path to my right.
It was confusing.
And where it kind of looked like Las Algodones, where you would go into the town. And then Rose like, no, walk over the bridge. So we walk over the bridge, and now we're on the main street. There's two Mexican police officers, and we continue walking on the street. And then I'm thinking to myself, there's something wrong here with this picture here. Because in Mexico, you don't want to walk on the street.
Bad boys. What you want to do?
Yeah, you want to walk on the sidewalk. So I'm like, hold on. Something's wrong here. So then we turned around, and the cops were looking at us like we're crazy. And we went back into the sidewalk where we were supposed. Now we walk into the sidewalk, and immediately you see more little restaurants, the open eating areas, and you see all these. What are those things that were selling? Those little vase things, the pottery.
Oh, pottery! Lots of pottery.
All kinds of stuff. Yeah,
pottery.
Yeah. And then
Nacho Libre wrestling masks.
Right.
And everything.
And then you see that, and then I saw a person with a very old car, and they were putting oil in it, and it's kind of in the middle of the street. But anyways, Rosie's there, and then she starts her chooch, and then what's memorable about that was that she wants to get something to drink. She gets a Mexican Coca-Cola. There was this Mexican police officer, and she gets him on camera. He says hi. I'm like, hey, that's cool. The guy was,
very friendly.
Very friendly, and then now Rosie. Now I went to Tijuana. I had a goal, and my goal was to see the nightlife, and I didn't. That was my goal. And now Rosie is on her. She's on her YouTube thing, choochin' thing, and she wants to chooch in this area where all the restaurants are at and pottery right by the border. And I want to get going to where I want to get going to, the nightlife area. So we kind of clash right there. We're clashing already. So now we got to figure out, well, how do you get to the nightlife area? So I'm gonna let and now, like I said, we're stuck by the border.
The main area,
right?
The main,
exactly.
Main
So we're by the border where there's just a bunch of people selling pottery and all kinds of other stuff and restaurants. And now we're trying to figure out, well, how do we get to the downtown core area where the restaurants and nightclubs are at? So I'll let Rosie chime in. This is the other part of the chronology.
Yeah, let me just say, I was able to do, just interject and note that I was able to do 2 streams live.
Right. One
was, I had enough, I guess, Verizon at the border to carry it for 50 minutes or so.
Right.
Then we managed to get onto the restaurant's Wi-Fi where we ate dinner tonight.
Right.
And you saw all the colorful pageantry of that scene down there. But I also have to tell you guys, I've captured a lot of video to put together a stabilized street chooch, as well as what should be really a nice day and night cinematic Tijuana video that I think that you will enjoy, which will cover the whole day from daytime right through the night, right after dark. And I'll tell you, we walked some really off the beaten path streets. Okay, now the thing that struck me 10 years ago, I didn't see one police officer in Tijuana at all. Didn't see any. This time the police presence was everywhere on the streets. You could hardly turn a corner without seeing flashing lights. Right. There were bad boys up on the hood that were being arrested and things, and that gave me a real, hi Monique, how you doing, sweetie? That gave me a very good feeling that they really had that place under really strict control. So we made our way in. I did the hangout that you guys saw. Marshall goes into the dentist to talk, and it was totally different dental experience.
Well, one thing I want to chime in about the police. When I went to Las Algodones, you would see the federales with their Humvees, and they had the AR-15s in a military outfit,
bandanas,
and you also saw the city police wearing the blue uniforms, and you also saw Mexicali police that would come in and do patrols in their trucks. Well, in Tijuana, I was surprised I didn't see any federales. Did you see any? I didn't see one federale.
No, I didn't see any federales.
And I would think there would be,
the Metro Police. Now, somebody asked me,
right,
Marshall's not apt to, when he chooches, he will pick, like, let's say one area, and he'll kind of maybe do a 360 and talk about it.
Right.
Now, somebody asked me, Rosie, your style chooching where the camera's right, walking right down the street and everything. Did I have any problem with gang? I had no perception of gang activity at all over there, number one. Number two, I'm not shy about wielding the camera, as you'll see by the videos that are coming up. And they capture day and night. The streets were packed with, with hookers and things in some of the bags. So you'll see them all on there. But let's not get ahead. So anyway, we finally ended up down at the core downtown, and they have a big, looks almost like a St. Louis arch. A big arch over downtown with a big hanging Tijuana sign. And that's the Avenida de Revolucion. That's the main street that goes through there. It's a traditional main street. Now, it shocked me how much it had become Americanized down there. 10 years ago, there were mom and pop shops. Now there were cigar bars, there were American bars.
All kinds of restaurants, coffee shops.
Galore. It was crowded,
Yep.
very, very crowded in
Yep.
there, okay? And it was
Live
loaded
music,
loaded with Americans. There
Yeah.
were, you know, girls hanging at 2 or 3 walking around and things like that. So let me just say the safety aspect was great. Now nighttime, it's you know, we'll get to that about nighttime and my police contact. Okay, it gets a little dicey. So we have to ask people for directions. Marshall wants to know where things are, and I'm gonna tell him about that one guy that we met. The weirdest people were the people that speak great English, that live in Mexico, and
we walk in. Well, first of all, before we get that, because I want to kind of. Well, the guy that I talked to, he was one of those guys outside that tries to get you into the clubs, and he was a nice guy. He was Americanized, and he was talking. And I'm like, hey, where are all the clubs at? Where's all the T-girl clubs at, and all that? And the guy's talking to me and telling me where to go, and he was a cool guy, you know, real nice guy. And he's like, hey, come to my bar. The beers are cheaper. They're $2 because if you go to we went to Hong Kong Bar, which is the most popular, basically brothel strip club in Tijuana. And when you walk in there, I've been told a lot I've read about this bar online a lot. And let me give you an example. You can go to a bar in Los Algodones or San Luis and get a Dos Equis beer in a glass bottle for $2. When you go to Hong Kong Bar, they force you to pay $7. First of all, they pat you down because it's Tijuana, you know, because it's dangerous a little bit, and they force you to pay $7 for a can of Tecate beer, for a can, you know, and it's like a forced cover charge basically. And then the guy just gives it to you, and then so you were talking about the guy. Yeah.
Well, I was talking about earlier. We'll get to the Hong Kong club.
Right, but
that was like something out of From Dawn
right.
to Dusk.
But the guy that I talked to, he's like, hey, come to my bar. The beers are cheap here. It's $2. And he was talking to me, telling me about Tijuana and where to go. And he was a pretty nice guy. But they all want to get a kickback from Americans. In other words, if they want to give you information, they ask, hey, do you have a dollar change? He asked for a cigarette from Rosie. She gave him a cigarette. No big deal. I don't mind that, to have like little dollars and you can tip somebody to get some information. It's not a bad thing. If they're giving you information, that's like doing a job. It's like being a tour guide. So I don't blame them for asking for $1 or $2 or a cigarette or a beer or something, because they're giving you information to where to go. So there's nothing wrong with that, you know. Yeah, so that's how it is. Kind of like New Orleans.
No, but I'm thinking about the guy that we met earlier that was giving information.
Oh.
And he's like, nice rack and all.
Oh, that guy. Okay. I'll address that guy. Okay.
That was flaky.
Yeah.
Marshall's always asking everybody for information about that.
Well,
I'm not sure what he's eating at the chocolate bar.
I'm having a Hershey's bar. But after we walked from the border, by the time we were getting closer to the city square, my back was killing me. We had been walking at least 45 minutes, and I was starting to have pain in my lower back. And Rosie is a person; she's like a robot. She can walk 6 hours without taking a break and sitting down. And I was having so much back pain. I'm like, look, I got to sit down here and take a break here. So I sat down, and you know, there's two guys that are encouraging people to go into this Mexican restaurant. And one of them is pretty laid back and cool, and the other one's a very animated kind of guy. He kind of reminds me of a Mexican version of Jefferson T. Rowe. If you guys watch Jeff T. Rowe. Anyways, just really amped up. And you know, he's talking to me, and he's like, "Hey, he's giving me information." And then he tells me that he's possibly watched me on YouTube, which is hard to believe, but maybe he did watch me on YouTube. But anyways, he looks at Rosie, and he's like, so he's talking to Rosie, and now Rosie, look. I'm glad that you got into the subject. We all know Rosie is an attention whore. Okay? We all know that. We all know that she, just like me, we're narcissists, okay? We're attention whores. Everybody knows that. You know, we want to be the show, okay? So, and Rosie likes to be, we all know Rosie likes to be admired and told how beautiful she is, how beautiful her boobs are. Anyways, so Rosie was afraid that the Mexican guys would be very aggressive with her, quote unquote aggressive with her. In other words, she was thinking they might touch her or grope her or kidnap her or sell her in the sex trade, etc., etc., etc. Now, this guy came up to Rosie and he's like, "Hey, those are some nice tits. Can I touch them?" And then Rosie's like, I don't know, she's like,
I reeled back.
I mean, she was like kind of being, you know. But the thing is that, okay, maybe the guy went too far saying, "Let me touch your boobs." But at the same time, he complimented her. Now, Rosie loves to get complimented. So the point is, now let me point this out. Rosie did tell me.
It was just so random because he's talking
right.
to you about.
Now, I want to point this out that Rosie did tell me she would not, quote unquote, dress provocatively in Mexico because she didn't want guys bothering her. Right. But she did dress provocatively.
I don't think so.
Because
I have a tank top on.
Yeah,
I got Air Force.
Yeah, exactly. You know? She wore a shirt that is very. I mean, she would have wore her Berkeley hoodie. She's wearing a shirt that's revealing the size of her oversized boobs. She's wearing jean shorts that a 16-year-old teenage girl at a high school basketball game would wear, and tennis shoes. And then the bottom line is, you know, with her Ray-Bans and all that, and her walking. And Mexican guys are very masculine. They're very aggressive, and they will touch a woman. They'll talk. You know, they're not like American guys that act like cucks. Mexican guys are they have a very alpha personality, and they'll talk to women. They'll, you know, engage. You know, so again, like I said, all in all, what I'm saying is Rosie did dress provocatively. She did dress like somebody wouldn't dress in her age, and because she dresses like that, she's going to be talked to that way. I've told her this before. It's happened in Michigan too, where a guy came up to her and thought she was a working girl. So I'm just saying,
I was dressed like a zillion other people over there.
But anyways, that's what happened with that. Now, I think there was other people that were gawking at Rosie and trying to get at her. But anyways, that's a whole other subject.
So all right. Anyway, you got to, I don't know. It was confusing because Marshall didn't have signal, and I didn't really have signal once we cleared that border area. So it was almost impossible to use. We couldn't use a GPS guide to get around. So everything was kind of a hassle. But a lot of people spoke English, and a lot of people didn't speak English.
Yeah.
But we did end up taking a nice walk down Revolution Avenue. Mm-hmm. It was really popping. It was packed. The bars were packed. Not much club stuff going on at that time. But the bars were definitely, you know, it was hopping. You'll see in the videos, it was crowded on the streets down there. It was very clean relative to the way it was 10 years ago.
Right.
They still have the donkeys painted like zebras. You can get your picture taken sitting on top of it. That's like the old charm of Mexico. It probably won't be long till that's gone too, you know, and they don't have that anymore. I mean, you can tell they've really advanced quite a bit. And I managed to get quite a bit of cinematic video out of that. It'll take me a while to put together, but I think it'll be worth it when it comes out. A lot of the street stuff you guys like to see, the vendors, the people with the carts that are selling selling food. So after we did that walk, I had to be careful because Marshall at that point, I think your back was really hurting at that.
Well, we think about this now.
I mean, I just like to go and just keep going.
We just walked from the border of the United States, checked through security, and by the time you get to Revolution Street, which is the downtown core where all the nightlife are at and bars and restaurants, it literally took an hour and a half to get to that point. And then Rosie wants to walk we walked at least another hour on Revolution Street to show. On Revolution Street they have all the restaurants, all the nice restaurants and coffee shops for people who have a lot of money, who go and, well, I mean, who spend like tourists and stuff. Because most Mexicans, they eat outside on these food carts, or they'll eat in these restaurants that are like just open. You just eat your food on the street. So after walking an hour and a half to get to downtown, now Rosie wants to do her content. We walk another hour, at least another 2 hours. We're walking on Revolution Street. At this point, we've already walked, I would say, almost 3-4 miles, and my back is thriving in pain. And she will not stop to take even a 10-minute break, say every hour.
I'm like your Marine Corps drill.
Exactly. She's walking here. We're walking here. We're in walking right now. 4 hours. 4 hours into walking without sitting down, without even taking a break.
How you doing, honey?
I mean, and you're talking about, you're walking on pavement. You're not walking on grass. It's really hard on a person's back to do that. So at this point, and Rosie's like, okay, I want to make my content. She does that. We knock that out, and then we go to the restaurant, which is called Nelson Restaurant. It's on Revolution Street.
Hotel there, yeah.
Exactly. And I just want to say my recollection of it. You see, they have a stage there where somebody was singing on and off with some music. Then you had a 3-piece band with guitars, and they were doing music there. Then you had those guys that were doing the little trumpet thing, mariachi stuff. And then we ordered a plate of food, which was a great deal for the price. Carne asada steak and a quesadilla and a chili relleno and a steak taco, and it was so good, and it was such a huge plate. It was probably one of the best.
That beef was unbelievable.
Mexican, and the atmosphere, it was so.
Hey, random trucker.
And you saw the police station right there with all the police, and I got a feeling of that it was very, very safe. That it was very, very safe. Not like what people say that it wasn't safe, which is not true. And
we'll get into that, because then it got into nightfall. But I will say, you had very competing music in a very small area,
and it was kind of odd, right?
It was odd,
right?
And you could tell on my live stream that I did a 20-minute live stream, I think, from there. The music was so loud.
Oh,
where
man.
We were, it was
like
you got a girl, you got a lady singing on stage, and then you got a mariachi band, and then you got Mexican rock, Mexican singers there. So that probably overwhelmed if you guys listened to any of the stream. Hey, Kit and Cat. I don't know, Kit and Cat. I mean, beef is. I didn't have any pork. I just had beef, and it was absolutely delicious.
Oh yeah.
It was all the food was top flight down there. I just think, Kit and Cat, there's a lot of. We'll get to that. There's a lot of myth and a lot of misconceptions about safety and security, and about the food. They know they have to have a higher standard of food with the era of reviews online, and word spreads quickly if somebody gets some kind of disease. So I believe that the food handling was well carried out in the places that I saw. They were more Americanized places. This Nelson was not. It was a real Mexican. The menu was in Mexican. I mean, it was in Spanish, and
it was a huge plate of food.
Yeah.
It was a huge carne asada steak that was very tender and flavorful. A really nice chili relleno. Quesadilla, steak taco, and it was one of the best Mexican food I ever had.
It was very good. I mean, I have no fear of eating in foreign. I lived in China for 5 years and traveled to hinterlands with no refrigeration, all meat slaughtered every day and hanging on hooks. I never got sick a day over there.
But
let me just finish with the dinner. And then I saw a Mexican gal that looked like Jennifer Lopez there. You'll see her in the video. Beautiful, just stunningly gorgeous gal. That was she wasn't our waitress, but she was a waitress / hostess there, and she was really. I wanted to get a picture of her standing against the Mexican the big wooden door of the restaurant. That would have been a great picture, but I just. Believe it or not, Rosie was shy, so I didn't ask her to take the.
Rosie was checking out this waitress there, and she had a nice nice.
We don't need to get into details. He was just a really beautiful.
Yeah, and Rosie
yeah.
was checking her out, and she's like, "Oh, whoa, whoa," you know. She was like, she had the Rodney Dangerfield face, like, I saw the Rodney Dangerfield in Rosie.
It's not often I get that. But,
No,
no. Sometimes somebody will move your needle. But anyway, you guys saw the restaurant scene with the music. There were a lot of happy people there. There were quite a few. There was a good number of Mexicans eating there.
Yeah.
And a fair number of Americans.
Yeah. I didn't see that many Americans, but there were Mexican Americans. You could tell who's American by the way they act and talk English.
There you go, Monique.
But
and it was a cool scene. You'll see the video. I think the signal carried very well down there. Again, there was a police presence right there. With
very
a parked,
good. There's a police
truck.
station there with many police officers and a lot of police officers that are making their rounds, that are standing outside, that are making their driving rounds. What are these people doing there?
I don't know. They're just walking like zombies around here. Anyway, you could see, I think the quality was pretty good. Just singing, the people were having a great time.
Great time, great
Let's talk
environment.
about the people. The people were friendly. If you have a question, they'll do their best to try to.
But
fight
they want something
through
in
it.
return.
Well, some do and some don't.
Yeah.
I noticed the older people were a lot more giving without expecting something.
Right.
So there's a hustle, and there's definitely a hustle on the streets.
Right.
You know, they're getting in, hey, come on in. They're coming out with menus and things.
Right.
The hawkers weren't as bad as I remember them before.
They weren't aggressive.
They weren't really aggressive.
Like Algodones and other places.
Yeah, it surprised me how kind of
laid back
the hawkers were. So after dinner was complete, the big question was, would we stay? You know, what was it going to be at nightfall? The night was the sun was going down. And Marshall was interested. What's the nightlife there? And I have some beautiful video of the neon and the streets. So we started walking around and asking people which club is which, and what are the most popular clubs, just to peek into and take a look at the clubs. And it was interesting to see. Actually, to me, the streets are even more vibrant at night. You know, they're even more exciting at night because they're under the lights, and there's nothing like night video. It really, a city looks beautiful at night, right? Especially cinematically. Yeah, just I'll get to all the questions. We'll have if you want to ask anything.
I wanted to chip.
But I just want to say how beautiful.
Right.
Walking down the streets, it's a much more earthy Tijuana at that point, because now we're kind of deeper into the city now we're off of Revolucion Avenue, and now we're kind of into the real Mexican area.
Yeah, exactly.
The price of the food dropped dramatically. I mean, you can get just a well done, there was all kinds of chickens were being roasted. Big spits of beef were being carved.
Exactly, like
tacos
where we went to Revolution Street. It has all the nice Americanized style sports bars and restaurants, and it's a sit down places, and they cater to the Americans. They cater to tourists, and it's more of like entertainment and music. And let's entertain the Americans, and it's going to be higher priced, but that's not the real Tijuana. So when that's over, that simmers down, and then when the sun goes down, then the real Tijuana comes out. That's when you see all the food vendors will come out. And they'll be selling food outside. It reminded me of
Hong Kong, to be honest.
And then you see all those, once you get off the beaten path, you see those Mexican restaurants where they're cooking the food right there, and you kind of sit on a stool, and that's the real.
Now, right then, I kind of had a twinge of regret that I had eaten at the place we ate, because it was a little, it was entertainment mixed with food. But I thought to myself, darn, if I could have known all this was going on the streets. I mean, there are people sitting there at tiny little, 3 or 4 stools in front of a place, and the guy's cooking the meat.
I gotta say, it was the greatest street food scene that I've ever seen in my life. It would beat anything in America. It would beat any food trucks. It was the greatest street food scene I've ever seen in my life, period. If you just wanted to go for the food in Tijuana, just for the food to be worth it.
That's why I would go back again. If I went back again this trip, I would take the trolley red line down there. I would just go over, do my thing. And I would focus more on this food scene and explore a little bit of the night scene down there, because the food scene
is off the chain.
Now, I felt that there was times I felt a little uncomfortable. Okay, I'm going to be honest with you guys. You know, now we're really off. Not really. You know, we're a couple streets off Main Street, but it really went up to full-on Mexican. I mean, if you get off the Main Street and you know, you don't see any other. You know, you might see the odd cowboy walking around from Texas or something like that, but it's real. That's the real deal. And that's where you hit you start to hit the hookers on the streets and things, and they're the ones that are dressed very provocatively. Some girls are out there and they're in G-strings on the
I don't think that we really went out of the core to make
not out of the core, but out of where most people wouldn't walk. They wouldn't be comfortable walking up those streets with such a authentic, all Mexican people, and all, hookers and food carts and
the hookers were
right in
mainly
the middle of that. You have the Cathedral of Tijuana, which I mean, it's almost surreal. You'll see when I put the cinematic video up, you'll see that. You'll see. I have two videos. The walking and talking, and then I'll do a cinematic. You'll see all that stuff.
I've got plenty of stuff that I'm going to put up too.
He's got a lot of stuff.
We both have a lot of stuff.
He's got a lot of content.
I don't think anybody's
I think you should watch both of the contents because it's a different take It's a different perspective, and let's face it, Marshall is a harsher critic of things. I think he has a more demanding standard of food, and if he gets a sense of something's not to his liking, he doesn't hesitate. He won't sugarcoat it to tell you that this was not, this was not the thing. But anyway. So watch all of the content because you'll get a different flavor of what's going on. But you'll see all the girls on the streets, because I'm pretty fearless about walking up streets until I got to one street, and then oh my goodness, I'm videoing the beautiful neon signs, and I tried to get this one gal that was a club gal, probably a hooker, and she was in a really interesting kind of pose. She had her right heel up against the wall and she was kind of leaning back, and I guess I was a little too obvious trying to get the I thought it would be a beautiful piece for the cinematic video, and here comes a policeman across the street, and he ain't smiling, okay? And he gets right up in my grill and he's like, no video. And I said, whoa, whoa. I'm like, whoa, man. And I said, I'm sorry. And when I said I'm sorry, he started, instead of cooling him off, he started to kind of get more aggressive with me.
What was he trying to tell you not to video?
Yeah, I think he saw that I was, he was sitting on the stool outside of one of these, outside of one of these clubs. And he spotted me because I'm the only one walking around. Marshall and I are the only ones with selfie sticks and doing a lot of videography, let's face it. And I guess I kind of stuck out like a sore thumb. And man, he was just in attack mode right across the street. I thought, okay, here it is, here it comes.
And he could have hassled you for some money.
Well, he could have hassled. He could have said, pay
a
me.
fine,
pay a fine,
or I'm gonna arrest you.
And for a minute I couldn't shake him. He just wouldn't back off. The more I tried to, I'm sorry, I didn't know the worst. The more animated he got. Like I think he didn't understand me. No, I don't. Be safe. You're all. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Marshall's going to talk about the fact from the fiction, but let me finish up on. Um, let me finish up on the night. So, the highlight of my day was night. Okay, because like I told you guys, if you're a YouTube content creator and you're a videographer, and you'll seek out people for your videos because people make the very best content, whether it's people, I mean, a guy doing a
Right.
super carb on
Right.
tacos, or somebody dishing out pozole, or people eating, and or people in a barber shop getting haircut. I mean, it's all part of the whole. That's where you get the really earthy feel. The girls all lining the streets and things like that. That's the real stuff that I go to see. I don't
Right.
care about. Although I like to walk Revolution
But-
Avenue, it's an Americanized. It's like a Disneyland of
Exactly.
Mexico.
I want to
okay?
I want to just chime in one thing about video, since Rosie brought this up. I personally didn't video any of the girls because number one, you could on YouTube you could possibly get a strike for that since it's adult content, or you might have to put it in adult content. And number two, I know that the trolls would use that video against me, whether it be calling the border patrol or customs and make me look like I'm a bad guy, etc., etc. So that's why I decided I'm not gonna video
Good night,
any of
Kelly.
the girls. Second of all, I've told Rosie this before that
Hope you feel better by
that
that. Hey, Cyborg.
I believe, in my opinion, that it's not a good idea to film any authorities in Mexico, police or federales. And today she got a taste of it from one of the police.
But-
Don't film the authorities. Number two. Number three, what I want to say about the video, we were told at Hong Kong Club, which is the most famous gentleman's club in Tijuana. They pat you down, they make sure you don't have any weapons and stuff like that, and they tell you explicitly no video cameras on the inside. Otherwise, Rosie would have videotaped the inside. And if you do, and if they catch you, you're going to get thrown out or banned or whatever. So, I think that they don't want. I guess they don't really want, for whatever reason. They don't really want cameras on them for whatever the reason is. But my advice is, anybody going to Mexico, don't film the authorities. That's the number one thing. Don't film the
All right.
authorities if you're not asking for
Okay.
trouble. So yeah,
Well, I can kind of agree with it.
because they could have arrested
most
you.
of my
They
stuff-
could have shaken you down for
Most
money.
of my stuff
Yeah.
was kind of at a distance,
Right.
but I was really surprised when this guy came bolting towards me. And these guys are armed, man. They don't fool around. These cops on the streets.
And you're at their mercy. They can hassle you.
I'm at their mercy
Exactly.
out there. Okay, now here's my theory on videography. Okay, unless, and I really have found this to be true, unless your blood pressure is elevated a little bit when you're doing videography, especially in a foreign place with an element of unknown potential danger, surprise, unless your blood pressure is rising, you're not bringing good content. Okay, if you're not feeling hyped and you're not feeling edgy, then you're not really you're not really bringing video content. Okay, because when you're real edgy and you're out there and you're taking a risk, just like journalists take in war, they can get shot too, Marshall, in war. But if you're out there on the streets, your best content is going to be in situations where a normal right-thinking person wouldn't dare to have a camera.
You put a camera. Yeah, you put a camera on a.
Now the result
authority-
for you
yeah.
guys, the payoff is that you get to see the real, non-Americanized type of Tijuana. Now,
Right.
that's risky business to bring that content.
I would advise people. Is just my advice. If you go into Mexico, don't film the authority. Don't film inside of the clubs. They'll kick you out or trespass you from there.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
And
film
don't
inside of a
don't
club.
film anything at the border, because number one, that's against the law to film. There's all signs saying don't film at the
Traveling
border.
leave. I wasn't compromising my safety. But what I'm saying is, I'm capturing like a street, like I'm walking up a 2 block thing, and I have two separate. One is, walking and talking. It's not the cinematic one. Okay, cinematic will be a separate one. But I can feel electric, when I'm walking up the street, and
Right.
I got people sitting at taco vendor places and on chairs in front of it and
Right.
stuff. And I know I got to get in there real tight, and I gotta get the locals on the video, and I got to get the guy in tight carving the meat, and I got to get the girls on or I'm not capturing the real.
Right.
I'm not capturing the real Tijuana experiences. And I would come back and I would say, if I didn't have that, I would say, oh, I gave them an Americanized version of Tijuana.
And
Now that's why I say my night stuff is the real deal when it comes to doing that. If you're not feeling nervous a little bit, and if you're not feeling your pulse rising when you're on the streets video, you're not getting close enough to the action. You're not bringing the true story. And I'm not talking about telephoto from a distance. I'm
Right.
talking about right by the scenes. I'm
Right.
very proud of a lot of the video. And some of it's surreal. You come into a plaza and there's the Cathedral of Tijuana with neon crosses on top of it. It's a very surrealistic scene with people sitting out on the monument out there.
People have told me before, and they told me in Algodones, that if you go to Tijuana in the nighttime, the police can shake you down and take your money and rob you. When you go to Tijuana in the daytime, and you're just sitting there eating with the tourists and Americans and videotaping a mariachi band, the cops are not going to bother you. But if you're in Tijuana in the nighttime, when the hookers come out and street vendors and food come out and all the characters come out, all the bad guys come out, and you take your camera and you whip it out and put it on a cop, you're asking to get arrested or shaken down. And there's nothing that you can do about it because we don't have the same rights over there that we do here. And Rosie could have got arrested or shaken down in a heartbeat, and she wouldn't be able to do a thing about it.
Yeah, next time, Jeff, just lay down on the tracks there and then put your...
if that cop wanted to take your phone, he could have took your phone. He could have asked you for $500, and there's nothing that you could have done about it, and that's the risk that she took.
But that's the risk you take.
Exactly.
And it's like a journalist that comes out of war. I got the content. It's in the can. So I'm happy about that.
Yeah.
Because to me, the chooching is fun. The experience of our, being in Canada and then contrasting that to Mexico in the same summer. But to me, if I can't bring some really good content to the place, then I'm not living up to the YouTube.
Right.
I can't just all drop back to live streams. I've got to still go to my touchstone of videos and videography. Yeah, good content will always carry the day. So, okay, I pushed the envelope a little bit. The guy got into my grill. Yeah, he eventually backed off. A little bit of finger waving and everything
when
else.
you're in the nighttime in Tijuana and all the nighttime people come out and you have that camera out, and you might put the camera on the wrong person, a person that's drunk, a person that's a drug dealer, a gangbanger. There's all the bad elements of Tijuana come out, and you're putting yourself in some serious danger.
Well, I'm just saying, look, you can't handhold a camera, okay? For me, if I'm going to have good content, I'm sorry, I have to have the full control on the stick and all that kind of stuff to bring the best stuff. I can't stand at a distance and use a lousy telephoto feature on a phone. I don't care how good it is. You got to get right in there in their grill, and you've got to bring the content. And I guess I'm saying I'm really proud of myself today for what's in the can right now. Will it all turn out? Who knows? But
Tijuana's
I think it'll make some nice videos.
Tijuana's the kind of place, even if it's not a police officer, you could have a couple of thugs walking around, and you put the camera on their face, they'll mug you right there.
I know.
and it's not the kind of
Now,
place. This isn't Oakland, and you know
I
this
understand
isn't
why Oakland's.
this is
All right, now let's get to. So
Yeah.
Marshall's getting frustrated at this point, you know, because our interests sort of diverge. Okay.
Right.
He's younger than I am. I got no problem with somebody that's, you know, there's tons of guys that are in there enjoying the club scene and walking around,
Right.
and there's all limousines pulling up and velvet rope things. It's cool. There's streets that the neon is phenomenal on them. They're packed in, they're narrow, and it's incredible vision. So, but you know, like a lot of the clubs we went into, let's be honest, it was disappointing on a Saturday night,
right.
you know, to go into some of these clubs right in core central, and there
Right.
was like four or five people in
Exactly.
there. Hey Carlos, well, finally we ended up and said, look man, I want to go out with a bang tonight. Okay, there's the Hong Kong Gentlemen's Club. Look, let's go in, let's check it out, and let's see what all
Right.
the hype is about. And we went in, and man, it was like unbelievable.
Well, the
it was
thing
smoke,
is,
it was smoke filled.
right.
It was 3 levels of, you know, there were. I mean, it was an ultra modern club. There were girls on hoops. There
Right.
were girls on poles. There were girls on freaking trapezes. There was. I never seen so much hiney congregated.
Well, let's
in one
talk
place
about
in my life, man.
let's talk about when you talk about Hong Kong bar in Tijuana, you're talking about the most reviewed bar where Americans go and they spend a lot of money, and there's more. I've never seen a strip club or club in my life that has more bouncers and security than that place. And there's a lot of different strip clubs and gentlemen's clubs in Tijuana, a lot of them on a smaller scale. Now let me give you the difference here, right? You walk into Hong Kong bar and you'll see more guys, more customers than the women. And the women they don't even come up and talk to you. So you walk into a smaller gentleman's club with say 3, 4, 5, 10 women, and it's more freewheeling where you can talk to them. You can talk to girls on the street. So they got different levels of club. This is the creme de la creme. This is the caviar. And
I
so
would say this. Yeah, I would say
so
it's probably the.
this is a place where where people go and spend a lot of money, and I think that I get more out of the street environment of Tijuana.
Of course we did. We agreed on that.
Than that's the real
But
Tijuana.
I can't go to
Right.
Tijuana. I don't know if I'm going to go back this trip or not.
Right.
So to deny myself a chance to see what Tijuana is
Right.
to a large extent built on freewheeling nightlife down there, it's part of the whole experience. And people can poo-poo it. Oh, you went to this club or that club. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the experience. It was definitely. I mean, I never saw a place. I've been to a lot of clubs in my life, but I never saw a club where literally there had to be over 100 girls in that club, and they were 100 of the most gorgeous girls that you ever saw. And they didn't look unhappy. They were,
Right.
they were either they were very good actresses or they were having a good time too. And you know, had a lot of security around. There was overbearing security actually,
Right.
and they're keeping an eye on everything. No, didn't get laid, didn't fork out any more money, just one beer and out the door. But it was like a 3-ring circus in there. They had
Right.
there were like multiple stages, and it was smoke. You know, you could smoke inside the clubs,
Right.
and it's kind of like there were girls sitting on guys' laps and stuff, and it was it was the quintessential. It's probably the greatest club sight I ever saw in my life. So it was all part of the experience, but it's not something that I wanted to partake in. And Marshall's correct. The street was where
The most
the real interesting stuff was on the street.
In other words, when you go into the top gentleman's club in Tijuana, Hong Kong bar, and you see all these beautiful women, and you see all these guys spending thousands of dollars in there, and it's like walking into an American strip club, but you know you can't touch those girls. All you can do is watch. Now here you're in this place, and every girl has a price, and you can get whatever one you want if you're willing to pay that price, right? Now, that's geared towards the tourists. Then you have more of the real Tijuana, where you have other gentlemen's clubs where there's fewer girls. It's less of a strip club environment. It's more like a brothel. And then you have the streets, the street girls that are just standing outside, T-girls, regular girls.
Yep, and he still got his chair.
And they even have a place for the gay LGBT.
Now, what do I regret
club.
I didn't go into? They had purely Mexican bars, okay, with like a pool table and stuff. No Americans around at all. But they would have maybe 100, 120 people inside of these clubs. I really kind of regret that I didn't go in and at least try to have one beer at these. Really, no tourists inside, all indigenous Mexicans in there drinking. Like I said, you only have to go 2 streets back to be in a totally different Tijuana. Okay, it's like night and day. There's no neon. There's no. I mean, it's just gut level on these streets, and some of those bars were really popping inside, and I just regret I didn't go in and just get that experience of one really authentic local Tijuana.
Well, I think some things that we missed out on is
now total time spent in the Hong Kong club was
maybe half an hour. But we didn't.
You absorbed the scene.
Yeah,
I wasn't going to buy another beer.
We didn't really get a chance to see I think an LGBT club or a club that would have more transgendered. We didn't get a chance to really kind of go a little bit off the beaten path to see what it's like off the beaten path. There's a lot of things that we didn't get a chance to see. The nighttime environment in Tijuana to me is a lot more interesting than the daytime. It's completely different.
Yeah, I thought nighttime was outstanding down there.
I think Rosie was, and this is my opinion, Rosie's been into some dangerous areas in Oakland and Las Vegas, and she's ventured out. And I just believe that, and I'll just say this right now, that I believe that if D-Dubs was with her, that she would venture out into the more dangerous areas of Tijuana. Because I think she has confidence that he could back her up. Because I've seen her put herself in danger. Now I had no interest of doing that, of going into the more dangerous areas, but I'm just saying that...
Yeah, I didn't press the envelope.
She didn't really press the envelope. She wanted to stay in, and I was...
Marshall would be like, do you want to go down this street? I'm like, dude, there's hardly any lights down. I can't imagine what's down on that street.
In other words,
when you see a street where garbage is piled on the corner, that's generally a sign that that you don't want to be going down that street.
We ventured out when we did our churches in Chicago in some pretty bad areas, and I think Rosie was she came to a point where she got intimidated and didn't want to continue. In other words, Tijuana intimidated Rosie.
I get to a point where I don't judge that there's a payoff of going down there. It's not that interesting to me to see just darkened commercial places that are closed up. It's not that I'm intimidated, but there's a point I don't want to walk beyond because I don't perceive anybody's on the streets.
I think and where I kind of see that is, if you really wanted to see Tijuana, if you really wanted to see probably the real Tijuana, is you'd have to know somebody who's a cab driver or a local that would drive you around in a vehicle and take you out of the core
I agree with that.
and show you the real,
or take your own vehicle in and drive
take
it
it
around.
and drive it around, and then you
But
get more.
These guys are nuts. They'll make U-turns on the narrowest streets, even the cops. So I mean, it's unbelievable to see somebody do a U-turn on a narrow, and they do it by the hundreds.
But a lot of people have said this before. They said, and I've heard it a lot over the years. Is Tijuana dangerous? It could be. Yes, it definitely is. If you get out of the areas off the beaten path, and it even could be even dangerous right there in the core. So I've heard this many times from people, and one thing I just wanted to say, when I talked to the nomads of Prescott, Arizona, and they told me, hey, there's no way that you can urban camp in San Diego. It's impossible. And then we get to San Diego, and it's possible. And then you talk to a lot of people that either Americans or Mexicans, and you talk to them about Tijuana, and they give you mixed reactions. You really never know the answer to anything unless you experience it yourself.
I'm just going to go into this restaurant real quick and just use their.
So
carry on.
Okay, yeah. So that's what I want to say in a nutshell, is that you can't make a decision on your opinion about something unless you actually experience it yourself. You can't make that decision. So there's a lot of things about Tijuana. Like I said, yes, it can be dangerous, especially in the nighttime. You have to watch yourself. You have to be careful. You have to be aware of your surroundings. There's a lot of police present. There's a lot of people, but it's a big city. It's a dangerous city. There still are people there that there's an element of danger, and you have to be very careful. One thing I want to say is, if you go into Tijuana in the nighttime, if you're trying to get to the downtown area or trying to come back from the downtown area, you have to take a taxi cab. Otherwise, you're going to be in some serious danger on the streets off the beaten path. So that's what we did. I'm physically exhausted. Just a lot of walking today. My back is killing me. And tomorrow we're slated to meet Diane from another part of California, and then Tara. I look forward to meeting her tomorrow, which will be Sunday. This was quite an experience. I learned a lot, and it's cheaper to park at the parking lot for $9 on the weekdays, and Friday, Saturday, and Sunday is $18. And you also have if somebody wanted to go to Tijuana, you could take a trolley and get to Tijuana. But it's a lot of fun. I'll be honest with you. It's the most exciting, fun, interesting city I've ever seen in my life. It's something that everybody has to do at least once in their life. Just like saying, see the Great Wall of China once, see Niagara Falls once, ride the world's biggest roller coaster once. You all have to see Tijuana in the daytime and nighttime at least one time in your lives, just to say that you did it, because this place is just a one of a kind. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it really, from the street food to the gentlemen's clubs, to the live music, to the food, to the it's just, it's definitely, let me see what the heck's going on over here. It's definitely an experience, and I just wanted to share every nugget of it with you guys, because it really definitely is experience. So really, no, I'm okay. I got my Coke here. So yeah, I think Rosie's coming back. There's a lot of people around here, huh, Rosie?
Yeah, there's a lot of people around here.
I don't know what the hell these people are doing here, but
I don't know. There's a lot of random people walking around the streets.
Yeah, I know.
All I can say is it's really random.
Yeah, I know.
All
But anyways, Rosie, what else you got to share about Tijuana? I
I
shared
would
most
say
of.
have no fear to go over there. In the especially daytime, you have nothing to fear at all. I don't think.
And even in the nighttime, but you do have to take if you like I was telling people, if you go there in the nighttime, take a taxi cab from the border to downtown and vice versa. Take a taxi cab from downtown to the border. Don't walk it.
We did take a because it's a long walk.
Yeah.
It's a good half a mile or so, and you're going through some really sketchy,
More than a half a mile.
dark areas. So
It's at least a mile.
Make sure you save some cash at the end of the night. It's like I
Right.
don't know. It was like like $5 to take the ride back to the It was worth it
Right.
because the guy brought us within a couple 100 feet of the.
$6 cab ride,
Yeah.
which is a good deal.
Definitely worth it. You don't want to take that walk back at night. When you're ready to leave the core area, there's hundreds of taxis floating
Another
around.
thing is, if someone wanted to go to Rosario Beach or Ensenada Beach, the taxi drivers will take you there for I think $60 to $100, depending on where you want to go. They'll take you to a longer distance if you want to go to other parts of Mexico by the water, like the beaches. So.
Well, a lot of stuff closes down. It's not a feeding. It's a feeding frenzy coming in on that walk. But if you're leaving at 10 o'clock at night, like we did, 10:30 at night, a lot of the shops are closed. The streets are dark, and
I think
you
in
really do.
Yeah.
You risk a lot if you take that. If you try to save that $5 or $6, you're making a mistake. Okay, because you're leaving that core area, and you're just there's a big distance between the border and the core. Hey, Ghost, how you doing?
I think
tell us about when you lived in China. I'll do that on a separate.
I think in retrospect, what I want to say is, if I ever went back to Tijuana, it would only be in the nighttime, because that's when the city really comes to life. That's when the people come out, the street food vendors come out, the nightclubs start popping. Yes, it is more dangerous. Yes, you do have to be careful, but there's plenty of taxi drivers, there's plenty of police, there's plenty of security, and just don't go off the beaten path.
5 years I lived in China.
That's my opinion. Just don't go off the beaten path. So, Rosie, what do you say?
Let me just, some people are asking about China. I'll do that on a separate.
That's a whole different.
I lived in China for 5 years overseas. And I'll cover that on a separate.
One question I just wanted to ask you real quick. If you did go back to Tijuana, if you did go back, would you prefer to go back in the nighttime as opposed to the daytime?
I'd go over about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, 4 or 5 o'clock, and then have a nice dinner.
Mm-hmm.
I'd go off. I'd experience more street food. I'd be out on the streets, having a sampling of the tacos, having a sampling of the chicken. I would do a lot more
food.
Right. I'd concentrate on the food,
right,
and I would concentrate on the nightlife. Because once I experienced the nightlife down there, I agree with Marshall. I just said my interest level in daytime stuff just.
I think down. Rosie was. I think you were pretty intimidated because you kept on stressing, "Let's go in the daytime. Let's let's." And I didn't really. I did not. I'll be honest with you. The daytime was cool with. You saw the live music. You get that live music aspect and the food, but it's more of a family environment.
Yeah,
it's not the real Tijuana.
It's more of a Disneyland.
It's more of a Disneyland, and I it was okay, but that's not what I came for, and I would never go back in the daytime.
I never dreamed a street or two off of Main Street that the Disneyland would just be gone like that, and it'd be like hardcore everyday Mexican life, shoe shining people, food stands, barber shops open, still doing a big business. All the pharmacies are still open, but you don't see any gringos or.
In other words, if you're a person with kids and you have a family and you want to see Tijuana, go there before the sun goes down, before 6, 7 o'clock, before the city lights up. And if you're a single person and you want to have a good time and party, Tijuana is the place for you in the nighttime. That's what it is. I'm not into the touristy Disney-like environment. That's not what I went for. But we saw both of it. We saw both sides of Tijuana.
What's up, Mr. X?
Which is the daytime and the nighttime.
Any words for Mr. X? Huh? Get
Oh
out
yeah,
of Chicago, Florida, run.
well,
brother.
my words for Mr. X is this: Mr. X, you're about 6'2", and you were in the heating, air conditioning business for a long time, and you had to bend down and fix those ACs and refrigerators, and your knees are shot. You need knee replacements. But the bottom line is, Mr. X, the only way for you to see Tijuana is if you went in a motorcycle or scooter, because, or you'd have to get around in
a gold wing, baby,
or maybe a Mr. Mobility. I don't know. It's a lot of walking, Mr. X.
You need your power, your scooter.
Exactly. This is a lot of walking that we're talking about here. I mean, you know, it's not something that you could physically walk parking on the American side. It'd be impossible. And when Rosie's saying it's a half mile to walk from the border to downtown, it's well over a mile and a half. It's a mile and a half, almost 2 miles to walk to the downtown from the American side border. It's not a half a mile like she's saying. It's a lot of walking involved.
The signs say it's a 20 minutes, so you can usually walk about 3 miles, 3 to 4. Yeah, it's probably a mile and a half or so.
It's
to get over there. But yes, I would definitely make it a night venture. Right. And I would probably...
The food, we missed out on a lot of good
Now, the other advantage of going at night is if you're smart enough to take a taxi back, you don't have to really worry about safety so much. And the other real advantage is when you get to that, when you get to that border crossing, there ain't nobody there, okay? And in the daytime, you can see where the queue started, where they tell people no cutting in line and stuff like that. Sometimes you can wait an hour and 15 minutes to get across. We walked right up to the customs officials, and now that's another good thing too. That'll be another advantage to going in.
A couple of things I just want to touch on real quick, because I pretty much said all I wanted to say. Is well, when you talk about well, you have. Let's see, what was I going to say? It kind of slipped my mind.
Mr. X really serves Polish sausage.
Well, you know, you go in the nighttime, and I just wanted to talk to the girls just to get an idea and feel for them. A lot of them can't really speak that good English. And I talked to a BBW, and she's pretty nice. And some of the girls are more... they'll flag you down and try to talk to you, make eye contact. Most of them don't make eye contact, and they kind of just do their own thing. But I talked to one girl, and I'm like, "Hey, what's going on? What's the deal? What is it that you're looking for? You know?" And she's like, "Hold on a second, I'm eating my taco." And man, that ticked me off. I just walked off. I'm like, "What up, man?"
I'm on my lunch hour.
Exactly. And then I want to talk to another one, and I'm like, "Hey, what is it? You know, what is it? How many roses do you require?" And then she's like, "No, speak English." And then I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well," I says, "I guess you know." So the street environment is a lot of fun. That is where the real fun is at, is the street environment, and just from the mix of you know, people that are on there, the food vendors, the locals, the girls, there's something for everybody in Tijuana. I know that many of you would never go that watch YouTube. Many of you that watch YouTube are just introverts, stay at home, and you're living your life vicariously through YouTubers. Us, people like us that are seeing the world, you're living through us vicariously. We're bringing you the world, you know. So that was one thing. There was another last thing that I wanted to say about Tijuana, but it just kind of slipped my mind. You know,
well, I wanted to say the most comforting thing to me was the overwhelming police presence down there, street after street. Always blue and red lights flashing, always Metro police around everywhere. So that gave me a lot of that gave me a lot of feeling like if something came down, then it would, people were less apt to try crap because there was such a big police presence down there, and that was a very comforting fact in my, especially now when I got off the beaten path a little bit, we started to get a street or two off. You didn't really see any metro police, but the people were pretty chill about being. I never had one person go off on me about the video camera, and let me say I was very aggressive with my videography on this trip because late in the day I realized I hadn't really captured the real Tijuana.
Right.
I'm like, oh man, I got to get on my horse and really go get this stuff. So
Yeah.
I was very aggressive with the videography.
One thing about the Rosie videography is, when you're in Tijuana, it's a reasonably dangerous border town. And so if Rosie had like some sort of a lanyard that could go around her neck where she could put the phone on there and not make it obvious that she's videotaping, but when she takes that camera out, first of all, you don't know if you're going to get a confrontation with somebody or police or someone that doesn't want to be on camera. And second of all, you're putting yourself out there advertising, hey, I'm a tourist. And that's not a very smart thing to do in Tijuana, because when you do that, then you're advertising to the people that you're a tourist, and then people look at you and they want to prey on you for giving. They want to get money from you to give them directions or whatever the case is. They'll ask you, what do you want? Are you looking for this?
I want to
that?
address that.
That's
I'm
not. So
this is a kind of a bone of contention because there's a guy named George Godley who lived in. He had a pretty big YouTube channel. He lived in. He stood in the Soho. He could still live there. The Soho district of London. And he would walk around with his Nikon on a strap and go in here and there. And in that situation, Marshall, I'm sorry, those people didn't even have a chance to put their hands up and say, no, 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 no. Plus he had shaky video, okay? To me, I want people to know that I'm doing videos because I want people to have a chance to say, no, I don't want to be on camera. Now, nobody had an issue tonight, and they all knew that I was taking video except a policeman because I was trying to get a frame shot because it was a great, it was a beautiful shot of this one hooker. It just framed up perfectly, and I guess I took too much time to sort of set up the shot. So the cop took issue with, okay, no problem. But otherwise, I will never ever use Google glasses or other things to capture video without people knowing, because I in my mind I want to give people the option to say I don't want to be, I don't want to capture somebody, and then wonder later, did they want to be on video or did they not? Did they mind? I want to give people a chance, and that's always been my philosophy.
Tijuana's
I'm doing street shooters. So when I use and nobody's used a selfie stick on Boyd for longer and in more videos, people know exactly what I'm doing when I'm walking around with the camera. To me, that's just decency.
I think that I make Tijuana is the kind of place where let me give you an example. And Rosie got a taste of it with the police. Tijuana is the kind of places, you could be. I was sitting at Hong Kong Club, and this bouncer was standing right in front of me where I couldn't even see the girls dancing. And it's the kind of place where as Americans, they're letting us in so we can spend our money, but at the same time, we don't have the same rights over there as we have here. So if I would have told the guy, hey, get out of my face, I want to see the girls, he could have just thrown me out and I would have no recourse. And if the cop really wanted to shake Rosie down or arrest her, he could have did it in a heartbeat and she wouldn't be able to do nothing about it. And if you take that camera and you put it on somebody's face in Tijuana, whether it's in the area, the nightlife area, or outside of the area, and they don't like it, then you're going to have a problem. And because some of these people are in Tijuana,
Well,
they're aggressive. So
if somebody tells me, and I'm, he saw I had a selfie stick walking into the club
Right.
with the cell phone on it, and he just made a point because guys, people would go in there and try to capture video. Hey, I'm not going to capture video in that type of situation because I don't. That's not what I'm about. Okay. It was an incredible scene, but it's not the kind of thing that I want to do.
Well, one thing
if you're enjoying the stream, please take a second to give a thumbs up. I appreciate you guys thumbing up.
One thing I want to say.
How was the shawarma in Tijuana? I didn't see any shawarma. Yeah, nobody does the selfie stick like me. Thank you, Michelle.
One thing I would highly advise people, unless you know the person, don't buy any drugs in Tijuana, because that's where you could get set up and get robbed by the real bad thugs. Unless you know the person or whatever, you're asking for a death wish. I've been told that by many people. I just think it's my opinion and what I've been told by other people. Because, so, you see people out there and you see, like for example, when you go to Tijuana and you see the people that are buying food and eating, and the street food vendors and the girls and the people in the bars, they're okay. But then there's that other layer and element. There's those people that are on the street off the beaten path. Now you take that camera and you go off that beaten path and put that camera on their face. It ain't going to be like Oakland. It ain't going to be like Vegas. It ain't going to be like nothing you've ever seen in your life. And Rosie knows that. And she's aware of that. And, and that's the bottom line. You're in a foreign country. We don't have the same rights that we do here. And you know that. You're at the mercy of those people and those police. And they can get one over on you anytime. And that's the thing. And that's the feeling that I get at Tijuana. So maybe Mexicali is different. Maybe it's more laid back, but that it is what it is. So, but it's a lot of fun.
There's a lot of truth to that. So the bottom line is this: if you want the tourist sort
the
of
Disneyland,
I want to call it the sort of Disney-esque version, you can do that with total safety. And,
right.
Go there at 10 a.m. in the morning, leave at 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you're
right.
going to be fine. If you want the more earthy part of Tijuana and really experience the real Tijuana,
right.
I would agree. Go down in the afternoon, stay later, and I almost regretted on our way out that I didn't stay longer tonight. But I sensed that Marshall was getting frustrated by the club scene, could not get a signal to really understand where we were relative to these places. I would have enjoyed at least peeking in and taking a look at them, because it gives the whole experience of Tijuana. And whether you like trans gals or not, or dressers, or drag queen shows and all that, it is part of the genre of Tijuana.
And it's nice that we saw both parts, right?
Yeah.
The daytime and the nighttime. We saw what a tourist would see.
I was like, now
right.
It got good. Just when
right.
we sat down to eat, all of a sudden it got really.
Right.
It went from fun to off the
In
chain.
retrospect, I think it would have actually been more fun.
You're welcome.
To go into
Sue.
Tijuana at 10, 11 o'clock at night and stay till 4, 5, 6 in the morning.
Happy
I think that's
birthday,
when
honey.
it really gets popping. Is between midnight and 4 in the morning. That's will be the time. Or 10,
Take care, Scott. Thank you for the support.
The later the better, I believe. So.
I think for a lot of people that is the appeal of Tijuana. There's really nothing beyond seeing if it's a Wild West town, right. Which is not. I think any Wild West has been beaten out of Tijuana. But there's a lot of people that do go down. There were women in the club, American women sitting in there with their boyfriends and things and having a good time.
And
let me just finish this,
yeah.
Marshall. And I'm sure the Wild West thing is out there, but let's not deny that for a lot of Americans, there were Chinese in there, there were Japanese tourists in there. It's that playland aspect of Tijuana that attracts people to visit it. And there was no playland aspect to Los Algodones. There was no playland aspect to San Luis. Okay, there's definitely a playground aspect to. I saw the same thing in Asia when I would go to Thailand or I would go to Vietnam and go on business to Vietnam and. Places like that, there would be that playland sort of mentality of people.
One thing I wanted to pitch in on here was I got local told me, he says that Tijuana is ranked probably number 2 to Thailand when it comes to gentlemen's clubs and nightlife, and like you say, that playland aspect. I mean, so he was very proud of a city.
Yeah.
Of being able, to have that. And another thing I want to say, this is what I don't want to forget. If you're going to cross the border of Tijuana, either going in or coming out, there's a lot of. Is there more traffic coming in or going out? I think, or coming out of Tijuana. What's worse?
Traffic coming in,
or traffic going in or out? If you're going to drive in.
Probably going out.
Probably
people
going
leaving.
Out.
Yeah.
People leaving. There's a lot of. You're going to be waiting there for hours, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's
you're going to wait for hours.
So I highly recommend parking on the American side and taking a taxi cab in. Another thing is, if you're going to cross the Mexican border, avoid Tijuana. Cross through Tecate or Mexicali or somewhere else, because you'll be waiting for hours to get through. Another thing is that I wanted to touch on lastly. People say Tijuana is dangerous. Yes, there are elements of danger, but several parking lots on the American side in San Ysidro, it was filled with American vehicles with California license plates. You saw a lot of young people in their 20s, Americans and Mexican people crossing in and out. So, there's elements of danger, but it's not as dangerous as people say, and as the media pushes it. It's not true. It's a bunch of baloney, and I'm glad that we gave you guys the truth and not the myth. So that's pretty much all I gotta say.
I will say also that there were people, somebody commented Japanese don't usually go to places like Tijuana. there were I don't want to say there were a lot. There were quite a few Chinese tours there and Korean tours and some Japanese tourists in there. So they really like that. They're attracted to the Disneyland type Tijuana, the mariachi bands, the margaritas, the colorful. Let's face it, it's noise and color. That's Tijuana, noise and color. Okay. It's noisy as can be, and it's extremely colorful. All the vivid colors come through in Mexico. That's what they're coming through. Yeah, great adventures.
One of the coolest things we saw was going into that between those buildings, and you saw people with it's like a covered building and like that corridor, and people just sitting having coffee and tea, and the arts and crafts and the library. And you guys will see it on Rosie's channel. I never. It was just really cool. It was just different. It's a whole different world than we live in here in America, and so.
Would I go back again? Yeah, like I said, I would go back to drill down on the nightlife, especially the street foods, and have some of the street foods. And check out a few more of the clubs and bars there. I think that would be a lot of fun too. Like I said, I wanted to go to a real 100% all Mexican bar, and go in there and have a beer, and that would have been a great experience. So Asians take safe bus tours. Yeah, they probably do.
And I think the funniest thing I want to add is when the guys were gawking at Rosie, and they were talking, they were flirting with her in Mexican, and I could tell the look on her face that she had, that she wanted to leave at that point. I could tell. I don't know if she was afraid or intimidated, but there was something in her that I saw that I never saw ever, that I never saw. That, you know, all these Mexican guys are gawking at her, or they're talking to her in Spanish. I don't understand what they're saying, but I could see the look on her face, and it was like, I want to get off the street, I want to go in the club, or I want to get out of here. That was what was on her conscience. And you know, she said that she's from Baltimore and she lived the street life, but this Tijuana street life shook her up and woke her up. And I've never seen her shaken up and woken up like that ever. And she's been in Vegas, she's been in Oakland, but this shook her up. This shook her world up. So D-Dubs, if you're watching, I just want to say, if you're man enough, come with Rosie to Tijuana and chooch in Tijuana, because I think and I believe that she needs you. And that's all I got to say. That's the last thing I got to say about it, because I've never seen Rosie shaken up like she was tonight.
Well,
so,
you know, I mean, you like to be able to, you can't control people on the street. Okay, that's
right.
The bottom line. You wish you can, but you can't. And sometimes it gets a little, you sense that you've lost control of the situation, and that's not a comfortable feeling to have on the streets. And you've got to extricate yourself from that situation. You know,
Rosie just had this. I could tell she was telepathically telling me spiritually, I want to get off the street. I want to go in the club where it's safer, or get out of here. Now, I'm not gonna define that as, Rosie is not she's a courageous person. She's brave. You know, in some aspects she's fearless. But today I saw her shaken up. She was shook up, and I've never seen her shooken up like this. And I'm not gonna say it's fear. I'm not going to say that Rosie is a sissy. I'm not going to say that Rosie is a coward, but she was shaken up, and I could feel it from her. I could feel it just coming from her soul. And maybe if D-Dubs was with her and she's got more confidence, he's got her back, then she wouldn't have felt like that. But I believe that, number one, I don't know what it is, but number one, I'm not the kind of person who looks for confrontations and all that, but I can be aggressive if I want to. I can be an animal if I want to. I can be just as big and nasty as an animal as any street thug out there, or as D-Duff from the Motor City. I can be an animal if I want to. But the bottom line is, and I have to ask you, Rosie, bottom line is, this is the question that I wanted to get to the core of. Ask you, why were you shook up tonight? What shook you up? Explain that. That's what I really want to know. What shook you up about Tijuana tonight? Because you were not yourself tonight.
I don't know if I was shaken up. I had to shift gears to something I wasn't expecting down there.
Right.
Meaning, once you get off of Main Street, then it's the real Mexico back there.
Right.
And that was just...
What were you worried about? What were you shaking up? Because
I didn't want anybody to, number one, I didn't want anybody to think I was working down there. Okay. And I didn't want anybody to think I was a working girl. And, that was important. And number two, like I said, you know, sometimes things can spiral and people can get a little crazy. You know, guys can sense that there's no barrier. Okay.
Right.
And then they, you know, I've had experience of guys, you know, like Rose and I down at the in San Luis, where guys just come up and start rubbing the back of your ass, standing there at the bar and stuff, and you're a little shocked. And I didn't want to be touched.
Okay. Now that's...
I didn't want to be. I wanted my bubble, like you talked about last night. You talked about you got to have your bubble, and I felt like I didn't want it to get to a point where your bubble could be anybody could think that they could step into that. Well,
this is the thing with Rosie, is that whether, it doesn't matter if people say, if people would say, it doesn't matter if Rosie's walking in Tijuana, there's guys looking at her. Now the working girls don't walk; they just stand in one spot. They don't walk. And then, if Rosie was my girlfriend or wife, we'd just be in the club. So she really stands out, right? Walking on the street, right? Here's a woman, right? Even if you want to say woman, transgender, walking on the street. And these guys are trying to figure out, well, what's up with her? Is she looking for drugs? Is she a working girl? Is this guy that she's with, is he pimping her out? Because we're in Tijuana right now. This is a red light district of Mexico. And these guys are speaking Spanish. I don't understand what they're saying. And Rosie is just like frozen. And I've never seen her frozen like that, ever. I've never seen her, she just froze. She just froze like a statue. She didn't know what to do. And when I told her was to walk down that street, she's like, no. And I've never heard Rosie say no, she's not going to walk on a side street. In fact, she's pushed me to walk in African American areas that are ghetto in Chicago that are very dangerous, and I didn't want to do it, and she did it. But in Tijuana, she didn't do it. And whatever shook her up, something shook her up, and I've never seen Rosie shaken up like that. But
the question is, do I feel like Marshall would have, if something had happened bad? I'm not talking about just a guy coming up and trying to chat you up or something like that. I'm talking about if something, I've seen a really fierce side of Marshall break out. It's a real rarity, but I've seen him get really worked up to the point he's almost foaming at the mouth. And I don't care who it is. I wouldn't want to confront that because he could be like a bull, once he, as you say, once you cross that line, that's it, it's like game on.
Exactly. If I'm in a bar and I'm having a couple of drinks and I get pissed off, I can be an animal.
People are going to hate to hear that on here because it doesn't toe the company line, but I wouldn't want to see this guy, I wouldn't want to confront him in a fight, and let's just say if you don't land an effective first punch, and if he lays into you, there's gonna be a situation. And I'm just saying, so I didn't feel defenseless down there, but that doesn't toe the company line, and I understand that. But I've observed him in situations on the street and stuff that and on YouTube in past history, when it takes kind of a lot to get him pushed past that point, but I think he could give a pretty good account of himself in this situation on the street, as could D, as could D.
So Rosie, like, now that you said, what about all those girls that are out there that are working, whether they're a T-girl or woman in Tijuana, right? Mm-hmm. Why weren't the guys bothering them?
Bothering in the sense of what?
Bothering and trying to like they were flirting with you.
Those girls were about business.
Right.
They didn't understand what.
They didn't understand what
you didn't. They didn't understand whether I was an American and you were just a pimp, and
right.
just working the streets of Mexico is alternative to the black hair and brown eyes.
That's what it looks like. I'm a guy who look. I could pass for being Spanish or Mexican, okay? And they're probably looking at me like, hey, I'm pimping her out. I'm walking in Tijuana on a street. I've got a woman with me with oversized boobs, with shorts, and she's walking on the street. These guys are probably thinking that, hey, I'm her pimp. And they start talking in Mexican, and then she freezes. She just goes frozen, basically. So I think that if she just, because that's what it was. I mean, it was just kind of odd. It was just kind of weird.
I do stand out when I'm doing my
stands
videography
out.
and that,
So-
and walking around, and I understand that.
But I've never heard Rosie refuse that I'm going to go down a side street. And today
I
in
was surprised
Tijuana,
you wanted to go down the street because nothing appeared to be down there. It appeared
well,
to be
there
a couple.
was some. Yeah.
There appeared to be a couple dim lights on, but otherwise, I was
Right.
wondering, what do you really expect to see down there? What are you expecting to see? You're going to see probably a wild dog down there, and some garbage sitting out on the street.
What did you think about the going into the bars? Though, would it be safe? Would it be safe to go into the regular bars? I think it would, right?
Well, how deep are we talking out in the Mexican night? I mean, how?
Well, as long as the bars that are in the core, but I don't know how.
You can go. In my
Right.
opinion, you can go into any bar within a 1 mile radius of downtown,
Right.
and be reasonably assured 99% you're not going to have any problem at all.
Right.
Would I go in alone? No, I wouldn't do that at all. The only thing I would do is stay in the Disneyland area of Tijuana. I would not have ventured the roads, the back ways that we ventured tonight as a gal there all by myself.
One thing
There's
I
no
do want
way
to one thing I do want to know about Tijuana is, has there ever been any like taxi drivers who got people robbed or mugged? Because that would be very easily done if they wanted to. They could take you somewhere and get you mugged, but they're pretty clean cut. They're pretty honest and stuff. But that's it. That's pretty much my review, and
Yeah, I'm sure he'll have much to say about thoughts on living in Mexico on his own hangout. He'll probably be talking about what he would think life would be like in Mexico. It has a lot of appeal to Marshall, precisely, but I think a little bit got taken off because of some of the maybe some of the working girls and their attitudes. They're all
Right.
about business down there.
right,
And the reason some of them don't really engage you is a simple fact that these girls tend to be not the most educated people in society. They trade on their beauty,
right,
and that's it's what they got to do to survive, make ends meet or whatever. So they understand they have the looks to do it, but they might not have the linguistic skills
right.
to communicate with, especially not on Main Street. This is a couple streets back. Okay,
Right.
this is the gals. They're not club girls.
Right.
There's still a lot of them are very nice looking girls,
Right.
but they're not comfortable engaging
Yeah.
in English.
Linguistically.
Okay?
Yeah. Right.
And I think that was the reason that they want to end it as soon as possible. They're not comfortable. It's like Chinese. They
Right.
won't engage you. They'll try to avoid Westerners. Not me, because I spoke Chinese. They were startled,
Right.
and they kind of enjoyed that. But for the typical, they would try to make their way out of that situation as fast as possible, because they would lose face because they don't know how to
Right.
communicate. Let's see, Mediterranean and okay, so
Any other
all right.
yeah.
Okay, well, I think we've covered a lot of ground tonight. Would I go back there again? Yes, in a heartbeat. I may even go back there again this trip, but I would make sure that it was an evening run, and when I'm done, I'll just take a taxi out of there back to the border. Have a good time. Okay.
And you can go on the weekend and save half on park. I mean, on weekdays,
Weekday.
and pay $9.
Yeah, I'm not
for
sure
10
what the
hours instead of
scene would
18.
be.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how crowded it would be.
Right.
I just don't know. But you can park there for $9 or whatever for the day, and I think you'd have a good time if you're a little more into the earthy side of things. Make sure you're accompanied by somebody, and then do the side streets, because I regret I didn't budget more time. Now I know what's out there, and now I'm more intrigued to go to a taxi driver and say, "Hey, let's look around. Like, where's the wealthy area of Tijuana? Where's the money area? I know it's there.
Would you ever
You
get?
know, where is the money area?
Would-
Good to the hood. Show me the really good and the really bad.
Would you ever get a hotel in Tijuana?
I could get a hotel, and yeah, I could do a hotel as a single individual. No, I wouldn't do it.
Right.
But if I was with
People and
people, it would
Right.
be a different story.
Right.
I could. Okay, that's number one. Number two is it is safe. Okay, no matter what you might hear,
right.
that place is under such lockdown. At least on Main Street and the first street off.
Plenty
by
of
Metro
security in
Police.
the bars and bouncers. Plenty of
Number
of
three, it's not
police.
going to be as cheap on Disneyland Mexico as Los Algodones or San Luis. Okay,
Right.
there's a lot of money. There's a lot of rich.
A lot of
wealth
money being poured into
on
it.
the other side of north of the border. It pours down here,
Right.
and they know that here. Okay, you're not going to get the same value. Probably San Luis would be off the chain as far as value, but we didn't.
As
really
far as
see.
food and stuff.
Yeah, we didn't really see that much of San Luis. So
Right.
that's the big things that I want to say. Okay. Anyway, it has been a very nice hangout tonight. I'm sure Marshall's going to have a different spin on some things that, like I said, the thoughts of living and being a Mexican citizen and what's involved with that. And do you feel any different now, having spent, a day in and some night in Tijuana? I'd be interested in seeing what you think now about. Would a place like Los Algodones or maybe Mexicali, which we haven't seen,
Right.
would it be more appealing to you, or less appealing now that you've seen what the big brother of all border towns
Right.
is there? So, could we have a morning hangout with just you? I don't know. I mean, to me, Cheryl, it's kind of rude to just exclude somebody that I'm traveling with, but I will have a solo hangout coming. I feel uncomfortable. I feel uncomfortable telling somebody I'm traveling with that they can't be on.
I just wanted
I'm
to-
going to be honest about that.
Yeah.
So, I know Marshall talks. He talks over me sometimes, but many times on the journeys throughout the summer, I've been glad that he has been along. Okay, I wouldn't have done this by myself today. He does things for me that don't see the light of day on YouTube. I'm not talking about sex, romance. I'm talking about just stuff day in and day out that doesn't get the glory, doesn't get the attention on here. Okay, because I'll say, I'll say, I'd like to tell people you did this, or I'd like to tell people you did that for me, and you're like, they're not gonna believe. They're just gonna say, well, whatever. So sometimes that pains me a little bit. That it is what it is on YouTube these days. So we all know you get out. Oh yeah. I do get out of bed before. I'm usually up around 7:30, 8. Now let me give you a little preview of tomorrow. No, I'm gonna wait for the morning hangout. Tomorrow's another big epic day coming up. Okay, so I'm gonna tell you about that on the morning stream. It's gonna be a pretty cool day. I'm gonna go to a new place tomorrow. Look at some news sites. I'll give you a little hint. We're gonna go to where the uber rich hang out in the county here. So, anything you want to add in closing?
Lastly, all I want to say is that I want to
love you, Vicky.
I want it to be
and who's that? Rosary. Okay, and everybody else. So I don't know, Valley on the Hershey Highway. We can tell that you have a one-track mind in life, and that's kind of sad that your life revolves around just trolling. Anything you want to add on that?
All I wanted to say lastly is this. I know that the majority of the viewers that watch me and Rosie will probably never go to Tijuana. Some might. I hope that this hangout that we did debunked and disproved a lot of the stuff that people were saying about Tijuana, as far as Tijuana being as far as the dangerous element about it, yes, it is dangerous in certain ways, certain elements, but I just wanted to be as detail oriented as I could and give my recollection of it and my testament of it. And for all you people that say will continue to say that Tijuana is dangerous just because you listen to the American media and what they pump in your minds on the news,
Thanks,
and what you hear from other people, well, now you're hearing it from us. You're hearing it in 2019. You're hearing it in real time. And I hope not only this experience in Tijuana and Los Algodones and San Luis, I hope it encourages nomads and other people to go into Mexico and check it out, and don't be afraid, and have a little bit of courage, and give. It's just like I'm encouraging people to get into van life, and just disprove a lot of the stuff that people say about Mexico and about the Mexican people and the culture and the danger
Night
levels.
Survivor. Love
I'm just glad in this hangout today that we could just give you guys the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And that's all my goal was to say today. And I hope you guys benefited from it, and I hope you guys can consider to go into Mexico. And that's all I got to say.
Facts, Jack, on that tonight. So, will we be going into Mexico again? I kind of hope so now. I really hope I can go into Tijuana again, because I feel like I left a lot on the table over there, and I need to get down some more in the real local experience. So, anyway, guys, thanks for watching tonight. We'll see you on tomorrow. Like I say, another big day of events coming up tomorrow, and some surprises too. So you all have a good evening. And thanks a lot. If you haven't thumbs up the stream, I appreciate it if you take a second, and you do. Thank you very much. And for the wonderful support that has come my way, it seems to be an increasing trend, which I'm thrilled with. It seems like the more you bring content, the more it is rewarded on YouTube. And I'm very happy that people have been really increasingly contributing and supporting the stream, and that has been wonderful. Taxes are never collected here. They're never required, but tips are certainly graciously received, and thank you very much. You all have a good evening, and see you tomorrow.
Good night. Woo!